Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to turn your attention back to the screen, I have further instructions for you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been chosen to decide a criminal case made by the state of Michigan against one of your fellow citizens. I will now ask you to stand and swear to perform your duties to try the case justly and to reach a true verdict. If your religious beliefs do not permit you to take an oath, you may instead affirm to try the case justly and reach a true verdict. Please rise. Raise your right hand. Each of you do solemnly swear or affirm in this action now before the court that you will justly decide the questions submitted to you, that unless you are discharged by the court from further deliberation, you will render a true verdict, and that you will render your verdict only on the evidence introduced and in accordance with the instruction of the court. If you do so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. You can be seated. You will have a written copy of my instructions, but you won't get them until it's time for deliberations. Since no one can predict the course of the trial, these instructions may change at the end of trial. At the close of trial, I will provide you with a copy of my final instructions for your use during deliberation. Now I will explain some of the legal principles you will need to know and the procedure we will follow in this trial. First, let's go over the elements of domestic violence. The defendant is charged with domestic assault. To prove this, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant assaulted and battered Stephen Rutherford. Battery is a forceful, violent, or offensive touching of a person or something closely connected with him or her. The touching must have been intended by the defendant, that is, not accidental, and it must have been against Stephen Rutherford's will. An assault is an attempt to commit a battery or an act that would cause a reasonable person to fear or apprehend an immediate battery. The defendant must have intended either to commit a battery or to make Stephen Rutherford reasonably fear an immediate battery. An assault cannot happen by accident. At the time of an assault, the defendant must have had the ability to commit a battery, or must have appeared to have the ability, or must have thought that she had the ability. Second, the people must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that at the time Stephen Rutherford either was the defendant's spouse, the defendant's former spouse, had a child in common with the defendant, or was a resident or former resident of the same household of the defendant. Or it could be a person whom the defendant had or previously had a dating relationship. A dating relationship means frequent intimate association, primarily characterized by the expectation of affectional involvement. It does not include a causal relationship or an ordinary fraternization between two individuals in a business or social context. As used in these instructions, the words force and violence means any use of physical force against another person so as to harm or embarrass them. The prosecutor must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime occurred on or about June 22nd, 2023, within the city of Lansing and Ingham County. A person accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent. This means that you must start with the presumption that the defendant is innocent. This presumption continues throughout the trial and entitles the defendant to a verdict of not guilty unless you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that she is guilty. Every crime is made up of parts called elements. The prosecutor must prove each element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant is not required to prove her innocence or to do anything. If you find that the prosecutor has not proven every element beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must find the defendant not guilty. A reasonable doubt is a fair, honest doubt growing out of the evidence or lack of evidence. It is not merely an imaginary or possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason and common sense. A reasonable doubt is just that, A doubt that is reasonable after a careful and considered examination of the facts and circumstances of this case. A trial follows this procedure. First, the prosecutor makes an opening statement where she gives her theories about the case. The defendant's lawyer does not have to make an opening statement, but she may make an opening statement after the prosecutor makes hers, or she may wait until later. These statements are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand how each side views the case. Next, the prosecutor presents her evidence. The prosecutor may call witnesses to testify and may show you exhibits like documents or objects, or maybe in this case, a video. The defendant's lawyer has the right to cross-examine the prosecutor's witnesses. After the prosecutor has presented all of her evidence, the defendant's attorney may also offer evidence, but does not have to. By law, the defendant does not have to prove her innocence or produce any evidence. If the defense does call any witnesses, the prosecutor has the right to cross-examine them. The prosecutor may also call witnesses to contradict the testimony of the defense witnesses. After all the evidence has been presented, the prosecutor and the defendant's lawyer will make their closing arguments. Like opening statements, these are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand the evidence and the way each side sees the case. You must base your verdict only on the evidence. My responsibilities as the judge in this trial are to make sure that the trial is run fairly and efficiently, to make decisions about evidence, and to instruct you about the law that applies to this case. You must take the law as I give it to you. Nothing I say is meant to reflect my own opinions about the facts of the case. As jurors, you are the ones who will decide this case. Your responsibility as jurors is to decide what the facts of the case are. This is your job and no one else's. You must think about all the evidence and all the testimony and then decide what each piece of evidence means and how important you think it is. This includes how much you believe what each of the witnesses said. What you decide about any fact in this case is final. Part of your job in deciding what the facts of the case are is to decide which witnesses you believe and how important you think their testimony is. You do not have to accept or reject everything a witness says. You are free to believe all, none, or part of any person's testimony. In deciding which testimony you believe, you should rely on your own common sense and everyday experience. However, in deciding whether you believe a person's testimony, you must set aside any bias or prejudice you may have based on a witness's race, national origin or ethnicity, gender, gender identity, or sexual orientation, or religion, age, or socioeconomic status. There is no fixed set of rules for judging whether you believe a witness, but it may help you to think about these questions. Was the witness able to see or hear clearly? How long was the witness watching or listening? Was anything else going on that might have distracted the witness? Does the witness seem to have a good memory? How does the witness look and act while testifying? Does the witness seem to be making an honest effort to tell the truth, or does the witness seem to evade questions or argue with the lawyers? Does the witness's age or maturity affect how you judge his or her testimony? Does the witness have any bias or prejudice or any personal interest in how this case is decided? Have there been any promises, threats, suggestions, or other influences that affect how the witness testifies? In general, does the witness have any special reason to tell the truth or any special reason to lie? All in all, how reasonable does the witness's testimony seem when you think about all the other evidence in the case? When it is time for you to decide the case, you are only allowed to consider the evidence that was admitted in the case. Evidence includes only the sworn testimony of witnesses, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence. The questions the lawyers ask the witnesses are not evidence. Only the answers are evidence. You should not think that something is true just because one of the lawyers asks questions that assume or suggest that it is. I may ask some of the witnesses questions myself. These questions are not meant to reflect my opinion about the evidence. If I ask questions, my only reason would be to ask about things that may not have been fully explored. During the trial, you may think of an important question that would help you understand the facts in the case. You are allowed to ask such questions. You should wait to ask questions until after a witness has finished testifying and both sides have finished their questioning. If you still have an important question after this, do not ask it yourself. Raise your hand, write the question down, and pass it to the court staff, who will give it to me. Do not show your question to the other jurors. If your question is not asked, it is because I have determined under the law that the question should not be asked. Do not speculate about why the question was not asked. In other words, you should draw no conclusions or inferences about the facts of the case, nor should you speculate about what the answer might have been. Also, in considering the evidence, you should not give greater weight to testimony merely because it was given in answer to questions submitted by members of the jury. If you cannot hear something that is said or presented, or if you cannot see a witness or evidence, please raise your hand. That should say immediately. During the trial, the lawyers may object to certain questions or statements made by the other lawyers or witnesses. I will rule on these objections according to the law. My rulings for or against one side or the other are not meant to reflect my opinions about the facts of the case. Sometimes the lawyers and I will have discussions out of your hearing. Also, while you're in the jury room, I may have to take care of other matters that have nothing to do with this case. Please pay no attention to those interruptions. You must not discuss the case with anyone, including your family or friends. You must not even discuss it with other jurors until the time comes for you to decide the case. When it is time for you to decide the case, I will send you to the jury room for that purpose. Then you should discuss the case among yourselves, but only in the jury room and only when all the jurors are there. You must not talk to the defendant, the lawyers, witnesses, or anyone who may be connected to this case. This means that you may not speak to these individuals even if it has nothing to do with the case. You should be very cautious about speaking to people because you may inadvertently speak to someone connected to this case. This restriction is necessary to avoid even the appearance of any improper conduct on any person's part. If anyone tries to discuss the case with you or in your presence, tell them to stop, explain that you are a juror and not allowed to discuss the case. If they continue, leave, report the incident to court staff as soon as you return to the court. When the trial is over, these restrictions no longer apply. When the trial is over, you may, if you wish, discuss the case with anyone. During the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news report about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So, to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. The restrictions I am about to describe are meant to ensure that the parties get a fair trial. In our judicial system, it is crucial that jurors are not influenced by anything or anyone outside the courtroom. Under the law, the evidence you must consider must meet certain standards. Again, for example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because information obtained outside the courtroom does not have these safeguards, it could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. These restrictions start now and continue until I discharge you from jury service. Number one, it is your duty as a juror to decide this case based solely on the evidence you see and hear in this courtroom. You must not consider information that comes from anywhere else. Number two, this means that until you deliver your verdict, you must not read, watch, listen to, or receive any information, including opinions or commentary about the case, whether in newspapers, on television, the radio, the internet, or on social media platforms. You must not research any aspect of the case during the trial. This means research, including or using cellular phone, computer, or other electronic device to search the internet, as well as research with traditional sources like dictionaries, reference manuals, newspapers, or magazines. You must not investigate the case on your own or conduct any experiments concerning the case, including investigations or experiments using the internet, cellular phones, computers, or other electronic devices. You must not visit the scene of any event at issue in this case. If it is necessary for you to view or visit the scene, court staff will take you there as a group under court supervision. You must not consider as evidence any personal knowledge you have of the scene. You must not share any information about this case by any means, including cellular phones or social media. This means that even if you are not discussing the case with anyone else, that you may not post any information about the case on social media websites or in any other manner. If you discover that a juror has violated my instructions, report it to court staff. You may take notes during the trial if you wish, but of course you don't have to. If you do take notes, you should be careful that it does not distract you from paying attention to all the evidence. When you go to the jury room to decide your verdict, you may use your notes to help you remember what happened in the courtroom. If you take notes, do not let anyone except the other jurors see them during deliberations. Your notes will not be examined by anyone, and when your jury service concludes, your notes will be collected and destroyed. You can see we chose a jury of 7. After you have heard all of the evidence and my instructions, there will be names drawn or numbers to formulate a jury of 6. So one of you is the alternate. Possible penalty should not influence your decision. If you find the defendant guilty, it is the duty of the judge to fix the penalty within the limits provided by law. I may give you more instructions during the trial. After all the evidence has been presented, you will hear the lawyer's closing arguments. Following the closing arguments, I will give you additional instructions about the rules of law that apply to this case. You should consider all of my instructions as a connected series. Taken all together, they are the law you must follow. After my final instructions, you will go to the jury room to decide your verdict. A verdict must be unanimous. That means that every juror must agree on it, and it must reflect the individual decision of each juror. It is important for you to keep an open mind and not to make a decision about anything in the case until you go to the jury room to decide the case. You must not let bias, prejudice, or public opinion influence your decision. Each of us may have biases or perceptions about other people based on stereotypes. We may be aware of some of our biases, though we do not express them. We may not be fully aware of some of our other biases. Take the time you need to test what might be automatic or instinctive judgments and to reflect carefully about the evidence. I caution you again to avoid reaching conclusions that may have been unintentionally influenced by stereotypes. You must reach your own conclusions about this case individually, but you should do so only after listening to and considering the opinions of the other jurors, who may have different backgrounds and perspectives from yours. And that concludes the procedural instructions, your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you all. On June 22nd, 2023, at 1119 North Walnut Street in the city of Lansing, County of Bingham, State of Michigan, the defendant, Juana May, committed the crime of domestic assault against her fiance, Stephen Rutherford. The two were living together at the time, they were engaged, and they had been romantically involved for over a year. And although they were together, it's safe to say that their relationship did have its issues. The testimony today is going to describe 2 instances where the defendant assaulted and battered Mr. Rutherford that took place on the same day. Mr. Rutherford is going to explain to you and describe the first incident that took place where he and the defendant were having an argument. He will tell you how this verbal argument, an unfortunate but not uncommon occurrence among couples, how this verbal argument was escalated that of a physical battery by the defendant. Without threats or an assault by Mr. Rutherford, the defendant made the choice to punch Mr. Rutherford in the head, resulting in an injury to his ear. Instead of responding with violence to this situation, he removed himself from the house and from the situation to give the defendant space to cool off. He didn't want to be a part of this. However, Mr. Rutherford needed to get ready for his third shift job, which was get time of time. So he had to return to the shared residence where the defendant was inside. When he came back inside, that is when the defendant committed the second instance of domestic assault. Again, without threats from Mr. Rutherford and without any sort of physical assault from Mr. Rutherford, the defendant took both of her hands and pushed Mr. Rutherford through the doorway into the hallway, where he fell back and smashed the back of his head into a coat rack. It left a sizable lump of big bruise on the back of his head, and it was quite painful. Following that, Mr. Rutherford had to make the choice of what to do next. And ultimately, he decided his job was important, so he was going to go to his third shift job. Following getting out of work the next day on the 23rd, he decided enough is enough. I shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't have to be treated like this by the person that I love. And so he made a decision to go to the police department and to report this instance of domestic violence. He spoke with Officer, she was just promoted, Sergeant Hannah Robeson, who took his statement, who felt the bump on the back of his head, and who ultimately decided to take his report and do her job in this instance. As the prosecutor in this case, I have the job of proving each of the elements of the crime of domestic assault to you to the standard beyond a reasonable doubt. And as Mr. Bruce said, I also have to prove that the defendant's conduct was not in self-defense. To act properly in self-defense, the defendant must honestly and reasonably believe that they had to use force. That they had to use force in order to protect themselves from physical violence. When you hear the testimony today and when you see the video of the assault that took place, think to yourself, did she have to use violence? Or did she choose to make did she make the decision to put her hands on someone who loved her and trusted her and assault her? Look at his demeanor, look at how he's standing, look at where his hands are. You will clearly see that there is nothing that could possibly indicate it was necessary and reasonable for her to think that she had to use force in the way that she did. To use self-defense, the defendant also is only allowed to use the force necessary at the time, and that was appropriate and proportionate to the attack that was made. First of all, there was no attack, so how can any force be reasonable? Second of all, I want you to look and I want you to pay attention and listen to the testimony and think to yourself if her response was necessary and if it was appropriate. I believe that I will be able to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt it was not. And instead, it was in fact a domestic assault. Also, self-defense, it only lasts as long as necessary for the purpose of protecting himself. Again, if it's not necessary to begin with, it can't be necessary for longer than that. However, again, I want you to think in your heads, how long was it necessary for her to do this to him? Because I believe the evidence will indicate it was not necessary, and also there was no duration of time in which it was. And finally, and I don't believe this will be much of an issue, but the defendant also, person who's claiming self-defense, must not have acted wrongly or brought on the assault themselves. But yes, they so that in this case, the defendant, were she to argue that self-defense took place, she could not have acted wrongly or brought on the assault herself. Again, the testimony and the evidence that you will see today show that there was nothing for her to defend herself from. It's honestly, yeah, I just, the evidence will indicate that self-defense is not a reasonable decision or a reasonable excuse for the behavior that the defendant in this case exhibited. So I believe that the testimony today will prove to you that Duana May did in fact forcefully, violently, or offensively touch Mr. Rutherford or something closely connected to his body, but in this case, she touched him. Or that she made Mr. Rutherford think that she was about to forcefully, violently, or physically touch him. The testimony will show that this was against his will, did not want this to happen. And also the testimony will show that the defendant did in fact intend to act as she did, and intend to batter Mr. Rutherford in the way that she did. If I'm able to meet my burden today and prove the elements of this charge beyond a reasonable doubt, which I believe that I am capable of doing, and I believe the testimony will reflect, then I ask you as the jury to return a guilty verdict for the charge of domestic assault against the defendant, Duana.
Mr. Bourne, are you going to give your opening statement now, or did you want to wait?
Nope. Rock and roll, Judge.
Was that a no period, going or no period?
Yes, I'm prepared to move forward.
Understood.
So we all hope that we meet that one person that is so good to us and so good for us that it's till death do us part. And I hope that everyone has that experience, but I think what is more common is that we begin and end a lot of relationships searching for that one person. And so when those relationships end, it's not fun. It's painful and people get hurt, but the relationship is done. Sometimes there are those people that think, nah, I'm not ready for it to be done. I don't want to let you go. And so they call and they email and they try to convince that other person to stick around. But that other person does not reciprocate, and so the relationship ends. And then there's even a smaller percentage of people that, man, they just are not having it. They are angry and they are bitter. And so they throw things and they call names and they slash tires. But again, eventually it all fizzles out and they don't get the reciprocation they're looking for. So the relationship is over. Every great once in a while, you get someone who is so angry, so jaded, they don't want to let it go. They won't let it go. So they do things like destroy the other person's life. They want to teach them a lesson. You don't want to be with me, I'll show you. So they start to do things like lying to affect that person's fundamental rights, even something as serious as their freedom. Some people will lie to teach someone a lesson. Remember that. Let's talk about what happened in this case. So Duana actually met Stephen because he was parked outside of her house in a car that she thought she recognized. So she goes up and knocks on the door and they meet and they start talking. And after a while, you know, he asks her out a few times, they start dating. Then after a few months, her lease ends. And so she and her two children, 15-year-old, 9-year-old, move in with Stephen. So they're living there and it is a rosy point in time. He's decorating her house, he's bringing her flowers, everything's going really well. And then things start to change. And she's not getting the happy Stephen that she was in the beginning. And they start arguing. The arguments start to turn violent and physical. And that's not what somebody wants. I mean, she really wanted to make this work. So she sticks around because after every time he comes back and says, I'm sorry, I love you. You know, he changes the locks and then gives her another key. Okay, you changed the locks, well, I'm really sorry, I love you. Here's a key. So she moves back in. She's got 2 kids, single mother, doesn't have anywhere to go. Her lease ended. So she's trying to find a place. A lot of things kind of tearing this relationship both ways. So Things don't get better, things get worse. Stephen proposed. Do you want to accept it? So they are now engaged. But the violence continues. Stephen doesn't trust Duana. He puts a tracker on her car and activates the tracking app on her phone. She doesn't answer his calls when he wants her to, so calls her a stupid bitch via text message. He doesn't trust her. She really, really wants it to work. Things came to a head on June 22nd of this year. She had it. She was trying to get her stuff and leave, and she did. So he decided, I'm going to teach her a lesson. He's going to sit right here and try and convince you, just like he has everybody convinced thus far, that she attacked him. And you'll see when she stands up, she's 5'1", okay? He's not a big dude, maybe 5'6". He's kind of more slight of frame. But he's going to say that she attacked him. And what you will see is a 20-second clip of a video that shows her with a bag, a book bag over her arm, a book bag in her left hand, and a laptop in her right hand. And she is done. He has, what you don't see on the video is he has followed her around the house after she got home, not answering his calls, called her a stupid bitch, followed her all over the place. She went upstairs, got a couple things, sent her kids out to the car. Then she comes back down and she wants to leave. She's got everything in her hands. And when Miss Petrosky says she took both hands and shoved him, you're going to see what happens in the video. She doesn't have hands to use. She wants to get out the car to her children who are sitting there. She's been through this before. She's done. She's going to do whatever it takes to get to her kids. Well, and you'll hear what happened upstairs, but I'm going to let that come out because it's disturbing. But what you're here is she never called the police. She did not call the police on him because she comes from those families that we don't call the cops. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know if they're going to believe us. She didn't call the cops, but he did. And the interesting part is that he was so distraught and shook up that he went to work, and Miss Petrosky said that. But what she didn't say is he also went to T-Mobile and made sure he turned off her phone. And then he went home and changed the locks yet again. And then at 3 o'clock the next day, he drives himself down to that building right next door and sits outside and waits. He calls 911 very calmly. I need to report an assault. And then gives his statement to Officer Robeson. And I gotta say, Officer Robeson played straight into his story, because not even 13 minutes into their interaction, she's telling Stephen how she's going to find Duana and arrest her. She's talking about prison for a domestic violence charge. This is before she's even done talking to the complaining witness in this case. Before she's even tried to make contact with her, you'll hear that Stephen gave the officer a phone number to reach Duana at. Hey, this is the number that she called me from. Here it is. And I think the officer wrote it down, but her notes are blocked out, so I can't see it in the video. You'll also hear that there were 2 roommates at the house when all this was going on. You're going to see one of them sitting at the table in the kitchen. We're talking 5 to 7 feet. So if that's where this happened, he was probably sitting right here. She didn't even try to contact him. He's not here today. So based on 12 and a half minutes of a conversation. And yeah, based on that, she makes a decision to seek charges for domestic violence against Duana. You'll hear that he even tells her in that interview, she needs to learn her lesson. Imagine what's going on in his mind is I'll teach him. This is the first part. Stephen has been manipulating everybody, from Duana to the police officer. She's smart. She's smart. So I don't think he's manipulating her, but you know who he's after next? Each and every one of you guys. Really. So at the end of the case, I want you guys to ask yourself if you believe him. Okay. Is he trustworthy? After everything that comes out, do you believe him? And if each one of you individually has one reason to doubt, one reason, doesn't have to be the same. If each of you has one reason to doubt, then your deliberations end at that point, and the verdict needs to be not guilty. Just remember his words. She needs to learn. Thanks.
Thank you. People call Stephen Rutherford. You David. Your Honor, I'm going to tease down to the down.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury? You can have a seat. Okay, there's a microphone that's directly in front of you, and the lady behind you is my court recorder. She has to take down everything being stated here today. I could barely hear you speak when you spoke, so I need you to speak louder for the purposes of the record. We have these glass partitions here. It makes it difficult for us to pick up sound sometime. Also, I've turned the fan on and that drowns out some of the sound as well, okay?
Okay.
Very good. And then if there's a yes or no question, we need a yes or no. People do have a tendency to nod their heads or say, that's difficult to put and understand in a record. So I will ask you if it's a yes or no, but try to be conscious so that you will answer yes or no, okay? Lastly, if there is an objection from either of the attorneys, you'll stop responding immediately. I'll make a ruling on the objection, and then I'll tell you if you can give that answer or not. State your first and last name, spell both.
Stephen Lamont Rutherford, STEVEN LAMONT, Rutherford, RUTHERFORD.
Okay, you can proceed, counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rutherford. Where were you living on June 22nd, 2023?
1119 North Walnut, Lansing, Michigan, 48906.
And is that in Ingham County,
Yes,
state of Michigan?
yes.
Who lived there with you at the time?
The one I made, Zachary Fernberg, and Michael. I was probably saying.
And what is your relationship to Ms. Duana?
We were engaged at the time.
Okay. How long had you been together?
I'd say close to a year.
Would you recognize her if you saw her today?
Yeah.
Is she present in the courtroom?
Yes.
Can you describe where she's located in an article of her clothing?
Very shirt
And where's she located?
to the right of you.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that Mr. Rutherford has identified the defendant.
The objection to identification.
None, Your Honor.
So noted.
What were you doing later in the day on June 22nd, 2023?
Whatever it is, no.
Yes.
I had left for work early. I got an alert on my phone that the cameras was offline. So I kind of,
I'm gonna stop you real quick. What cameras are you referring to?
my home video camera,
Why do you have those?
for security purposes and pretty much.
So, sorry, I interrupted. You said that you had an alert, they were turned off.
Yes,
So what did you do?
turned around, came back to the house.
Was anyone else home at that time?
It was Mike there. Zach was there early, but so with me, Dewana, the kids were there, but they were pretty much heading outside.
Did you have any interactions with the defendant that afternoon or that day?
Yeah, on and off.
Okay. Can you describe what those interactions were like?
Just arguing, bickering, same old, type of stuff that most couples kind of go through sometimes.
Okay. And were those just verbal arguments?
First, yes.
So you see it first. When did that change?
Kind of when I came back and when I realized that the camera was off, my phone was actually turning into a modem, so they actually was rebooting and loading back up. So at the time, I was kind of waited for a little bit to really see what happened. So I went in, and at the time she was leaving, we got into, like I said, verbal agreement, and that's when kind of the physical thing kind of started.
So when what you described as the physical things started, where were you standing?
I was standing in the living room when the first incident happened. That was when I came back and realized that the camera was on. So I walked in and she was leaving. We had our words, whatever, and that's when she struck me. So
So I'm going to slow you down. We're going to talk about when she struck you. Okay. So how close was she to you before she struck you?
I say probably about right there.
Probably, and just for the record's sake, was that probably like 1.5 feet, 2 feet?
Yep.
So did you, well, actually, so you said that she struck you.
Yes.
Where on your body did she strike you?
Left side of the ear.
Okay. And do you know what hand she used?
We were actually standing like we were our one, so we were like.
Did she use an open fist or a closed fist or
Close fist.
closed fist? You said that she hit you on your ear?
Yes.
Did you know initially that it was your ear?
I just felt it was on the left side of the area, and then we really know if the ear is the left side of the face.
Before she hit you, did you touch her in any way?
No, actually, I was just walking in from outside.
Did you threaten her at any time?
I wouldn't say I threatened her. We was back and forth with cuss words and things like that, but no threats.
Okay, so it was heated,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a threat. Where was she looking when she hit you?
Directly in my face.
Did you want her to hit you? What were you thinking in that moment?
He was upset, I was upset, and things just got heated. After that, I actually went outside for a little bit, and
Why did you do that?
just because I knew that it had got a little bit out of hand. So I walked outside to kind of cool off and actually look at my phone, see if the cameras had booted back up, which it hadn't. So that video was not on my phone. But as I seen that it had uploaded, I walked back into the house and I asked her for the key if she was planning on leaving. And that's when the second assault happened.
So let's go through that in some detail. So when you came back inside and were speaking with the defendant, how close were the two with that?
As I was walking in, we pretty much was almost pretty much knows the person.
Okay, so pretty close.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I didn't hear that.
Well, as I was walking in, it was pretty much knows the nose, pretty close.
Nose to nose.
Okay, thank you.
And when you came back inside, that was still at the 1119
Yes.
Wilmette? So you two are foot apart. What, are you speaking to each other at this time?
Yes, I said, give me the key, and she says a bunch of other things like, you know, change the locks, get out of my way, and or whatever. And that's when she shoves me into, we have like a little walkway area, and we have a table and a coat rack.
Okay.
And that's what I kind of fell into, that's officially.
So she's talking. In between when the two of you are speaking and when she shoves you, do you touch her at any time?
No.
Do you threaten her at all?
No.
Was she carrying anything at the time?
Laptop, computer, I do believe was okay.
Okay. And then you said that she shoved you. Can you describe how she did that?
Pretty much laptops on her arm, bags on the back, and she just shoves and pushes, get out of my way. And I heard out of the house, and that's kind of where the confrontation happened in the middle of the doorway, to a little small door area. So in order for her to get out, kind of had to either get pushed or I had to move out.
And where, when she shoved you, where in her body did she touch you?
In the chest, or mostly like upper body area.
Did you want her to shove you? When she was shoving you, where was she looking?
Pretty much everything.
You said what?
At me.
So what happens after she shoves you?
Like I said, I back into the table and hit myself on the coat rack. She gets out and she basically walks into the vehicle. I'm standing on the porch and we say our words and she takes off.
Right after you had been shoved, how were you feeling in that moment?
A little sad. More like I should have went to work, not worried about the cameras. You know, that probably wouldn't even have time, but when you see your cameras offline, when people are there, there's stuff they're there for, so kind of got you.
And so we talked a little bit about cameras and the surveillance system. Can you kind of describe to the best of your knowledge how it works?
Yes, the cameras that I have are actually, they're battery operated night vision, so if you was to lose power at night or during a storm or whatever, the cameras will still actually activate. Also, if your modem was to actually fail or whatever, you can use your phone as a backup modem to actually run the cameras off of it. I've had people break in the house before and actually unplug the modem box. And the cameras.
Where is the surveillance footage stored when it's filmed?
It's called a cloud or actually.
Right, so the cloud, it's a.
Yes. So,
And are you able to access that video footage?
I have. And I actually already downloaded it.
Yeah, so and you're able to share those videos?
Yeah.
You would say you shared that video with law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. The video that you shared with law enforcement, did you change that video in any way?
No.
Did you edit it in any way?
No.
Okay, so I'm holding what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 1. I'm showing it to Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, you recognize this flash drive?
Yes.
And what is it?
This is a
It's a what?
video.
And did you review this video with me prior to coming to court today?
Yes.
Okay. And when you watched it, was it a clear and accurate recording of what happened on June 22nd, 2023?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
I watched it. You and the officer.
People move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 1 into evidence as people's exhibit number 1.
Any objection?
No, Judge, we're prepared to play it.
How do you know that that's the flash drive that you gave her? It says ICPO.
I didn't. do it.
Yeah, you held up a flash drive, asked him, did he recognize that?
Yes, Your Honor. So yesterday, Mr. Rutherford came to my office and I showed him this flash drive, made sure that he understood that the video that we were about to play was stored on this flash drive, and that, and then we watched the video together so he could verify that it was a clear and accurate.
Thank you.
Video.
That's your understanding, sir? That's what
Yes.
happened? Thank you. Let people's one is a minute.
Thank you, Your Honor. He's got up technology for a second.
I need to, are you in, you gotta log into Zoom.
Judge, I have it up and can play it.
Oh, you do? Yeah, I don't
just
know
need
if
to
they'll
log into
play.
Zoom.
Usually in this courtroom, you gotta log into Zoom. I don't know why the court doesn't always switch over.
I have no issue with this different playing. Shoot.
I mean, once you log in, I'll make you co-host.
Thank you. I don't know how audio will work.
When you go to share screen, you have to click the little box on the bottom that says share sound,
Okay.
and then
Oh, okay. That, it's asking me for some sort of, let me see. That,
Oh, I was just gonna try and zoom if it wasn't gonna work on yours, so I'm.
I just need to get it back to the beginning.
and are you able to make your screen bigger, Mr. Brewer?
That's as big as I can get. It's full screen on my
Oh.
computer, Judge.
Interesting.
Do you want to play it off of the actual flash drive?
I know, I'm just throwing stuff. Okay, that's. Okay. I don't know. It will have any,
Did you share sound when you did that?
I did, I'm turning on my audio.
After you,
Where's that?
change your fucking locks. You good at that? Fuck out my way. Get the fuck out my goddamn way, motherfucker! Fuck you!
Sure. So who's the woman in it? One-
One
speak a
name.
little. And who is the man sitting in the background there?
Michael.
And who is the person entering in from the doorway?
That would be me.
In that video, do you physically attack the defendant?
No.
Do you threaten her with violence?
No.
It's a little hard to hear because surveillance video, but what are you saying to her right before you, right before she fell?
I said she's leaving this room.
After she shoves you in the video, we can hear some yelling. Is that you yelling?
No, that's actually her.
And how do you know that?
It's her voice by.
Interesting. And what was she saying?
Change the lock and get out of my way.
After the two of you move off screen, there's sort of a loud like, slap sort of noise. Do you remember what that noise was?
That was actually me falling to the table and the coat rack thing that I built. It was made out of wood, so that's what the noise was.
Okay. So, and you had said earlier that after shoving you and going through the doorway, she had left the residence?
No, I hadn't left yet. In the process.
Okay. What did you do after she had left?
Pretty much end up calling in to work. Definitely didn't feel like going to work after that. I just basically kind of meditated on what had happened. Figure out what steps should I take.
Did you go to the police right away?
Going to the next.
Why did you wait?
You know, I really didn't know. I was just trying to just let it go. I basically trying to wash my hands with it. And then I decided to just go ahead and do what I was supposed to do.
Why did you eventually decide to take that step and go to the police?
It was just specific things going on, and also in a sense to kind of protect myself in a sense, especially when I knew I had the video. I didn't want to say she say situation. So I just wanted to make sure that I was protected and also I did the right way and the correct way.
So did you tell the police what happened?
Yes,
Did they take photographs of you?
yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Okay.
I am showing Mr. Rutherford what have been marked as people's proposed exhibits number 2 and number 3. Without going into detail, can you tell me what's portrayed in these photographs?
Lash is not on the blood on the ear.
You're what?
The knot on the head and the blood on the ear.
Is that you in the photograph?
Yes.
And how do you recognize, or, excuse me, do you recognize what's in these photographs?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
Me and all sure I took pictures of her. I wasn't even aware of the blood on the ear. She actually acknowledged it when I went to the police station.
And what day were these taken? Are these photos a clear and accurate representation of what you looked like on that day?
Yes.
The people move to admit people proposed exhibits numbers 2 and 3 into evidence as people's exhibit 2 and 3.
Any objections to the admission of people's 2 and people's 3?
No, Your Honor.
People's 2 and 3 are admitted.
Thank you. May I publish exhibits 2 and 3 to the jury?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
So I'm going to return these exhibits to you, and we're going to discuss what's in them, okay? So first, if you could look at exhibit number 2. Yep. So what is this a picture?
There's the left side of my face, my ear.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Left side of my face where my ear. Okay.
Can you describe how your ear looks?
Looks pretty much got dry blood on it. Either the blood up under it or in it. I'm not too sure exactly.
And why did it look like that?
From the actual top.
In between when the defendant hit you and when you went to the police on the 23rd, did anything or anyone touch your ear in a harmful way? Does your ear normally look like that?
No.
Does your ear look like that today?
No.
Now we're going to talk about exhibit number 3. What is this a picture of?
Well, that one is actually right above the back of the ear. There's a knot right there that I didn't even realize that I had until I actually woke up.
And why did you have that knot in the back of your head?
I believe this one had got pushed into the correct, because that's the only thing that's up at that level to actually.
And in between when you were pushed to the coat rack and when you spoke with police on the 23rd, did anything or anyone hurt your head in that time?
No.
Does your head normally have that the swelling on it?
No.
Does your head have that swelling on it today?
No.
When you spoke with Sergeant Robeson, how was your head feeling?
I had a headache pretty much. At least a day or two.
And how were you feeling emotionally at that time?
More shocked. We're upset. So, pretty much all I did was explain it.
I'm sorry, what was that
That's the
last?
only thing I really think of at that moment.
And how has your life been affected by this assault?
I lost my job behind it. But I also have into therapy, which actually has been working extremely well for me. Things have already changed around for 2024 for me. I got a new job and things have been looking up a lot for me. So I'm actually glad that I actually signed up myself for therapy. It's probably a good thing.
No further questions. Okay, my
Cross examination.
Yes, Judge. I'm Mr. Rutherford.
How you doing?
Good. My name is Tiffany DeBruin. I represent Juana. So I had a couple of follow-up questions for you. I just wanted to touch base on some things. So you said that the one incident happened, and then there was a little bit of time the second incident happened. What was the time frame between those two?
Minutes?
Minutes. Okay. So you're engaged to Juana.
Yes.
You loved her.
Yes.
You intended to spend the rest of your life with her. Okay. All right. And I know you said you were together for about a year. Did you tell the cops that you were together for about a year and a half?
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
you don't really keep track of time exactly.
Okay. Okay. You guys even started couples counseling together?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And you told the cops, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
All right.
Yep. So you said that she was leaving, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Yes.
Yes.
just for the record, we have to say like yes and no.
Oh.
Unfortunately, the record doesn't really pick up the, mhm. So
Yes.
if we have to, if you forget at some point. So it must have been pretty traumatizing, right?
Yes.
What happened to you guys? Yeah. So you said afterwards you went to work?
I did not.
No. Okay.
I called him.
Okay. But I was thinking that you said that you couldn't call and report it because you had to go to work?
No.
No, that's not what you said.
No.
Okay. All right. So what did you do after this?
I called in and just meditated at home,
Okay.
thought about it, relaxed.
When did this happen?
The night I had to be to work at 9 o'clock, so anywhere between 7:30, 8:30, because I used to leave about 8:30 sometimes in the ballpark.
So if the video shows the timestamp to be about 9 o'clock when you're involved in this 20-second altercation.
This is before I had to leave for work.
Okay, so if it says on the video 2100, that's 9 o'clock, right?
I have to be to work at 9 o'clock.
Right. Okay, so bear with me now. If the clock on the video says 2100, do you agree with me that that's 9 o'clock?
So 2100 is 9 o'clock, but it is 9
Okay.
o'clock.
Okay, so if that's what the video says, when you're on the video that says 9 o'clock, would you agree that you're already late for work?
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why I called it.
Okay, got it. So you told the officer that you were traumatized and didn't even want to go to work, right? So you called in, okay. And then when did you decide that you were going to report it?
The next day.
Okay. You took some time, right?
Yes.
Okay. But before you did that, before you came in to report it, you made sure to go to T-Mobile and turn off the phone, right? No, you didn't go to T-Mobile.
I could just call.
Okay, so you didn't tell the police officer that you went to T-Mobile and you had to miss work to cut off the phone.
I don't have to go to T-Mobile to turn off the phone. I can just make a phone call.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, did you tell the police officer that you had to go to T-Mobile and miss work to cut off the phone?
No, that's not why I miss work.
Okay. Judge, at this point, I will be playing part of a dash cam or a body worn camera footage. I believe that Ms. Petrosky has it because she has provided me with it.
For it, she was still kind of bogarting her way out.
Okay.
So when she went out, we both trying to squeeze through the front door until
Okay.
she went outside.
Okay.
And I basically was like pretty much hanging outside the
Okay.
door.
Have you guys had any contact since then?
Besides, I went and actually kind of disabled the phones this morning
Okay.
because I woke up this morning and
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Here, let's do this. Rewind it just a little bit. Thank you for saying something.
Okay. Have you guys had any contact since then?
besides, I went and actually kind of disabled the phones this morning.
Okay.
Because I woke up this morning and my whole phone was, so she has my Gmail and all that stuff, and I literally was kind of going to leave it alone.
Okay.
But when I wake up this morning and all of my Gmail stuff is deleted, all of my contacts are deleted, I had to go spend time at T-Mobile and take away from work, and I just kind of.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, is that you that's talking right there?
Yes.
And maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought you said I had to go spend time at T-Mobile, take away time from work to cancel her phone.
Not to cancel her phone.
No, is that what you
No,
heard?
what I said,
No, okay,
I had turned the phones off.
okay,
My phone ended up getting like master reset. I had to take my phone down to get it worked on and get it fixed. I had already turned the phones off
oh, so you didn't have to go down to T-Mobile
to turn them off.
to turn her phone off,
No,
but you made sure to turn her phone.
I turned off all the phones. I
No,
had,
you didn't turn off Josh's phone, right? Because he's a good kid.
Josh, I had 2 phones.
Judge, I'm not sure. I think impeachment might take a while. Can we play the full video? It's about 20 minutes. And that way we can get all the testimony out. for impeachment purposes. I don't know if Ms. Petrosky is willing to object or not. But we can go.
3-minute video about whether or not he turned off the other phone.
No, Judge, it's the whole interview with the officer, and I have a feeling based on the questioning so far that it's going to be a lot of pinpoint impeachment.
Okay, any objection?
I would just argue that at this point, whether or not the phones were turned off is relevant to whether or not the assault actually occurred. And so this is just, it's taking time to play the entirety of a 20-minute conversation that Mr. Rutherford's already detailed.
Okay, but it goes to his credibility though, although it may not be relevant, though, correct?
For credibility purposes, potentially.
I believe that's the purpose why she's doing this,
It is, Judge.
for the purposes of credibility. Okay, the objection's overruled, you can play it.
Thank you, Judge. I think what I would like to do, is there any way to turn up the volume? I don't know, can you guys hear?
You can be a little louder.
Yeah.
That's as loud as it's gonna go right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
But turn that fan off.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Mine's up as far as it'll go.
The audio clicks in after she goes.
Officer Robeson. Robeson.
Robeson,
Hannah.
like rope.
Yeah.
Alright, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Besides a big old knot on my head, and unfortunately, I hate to do this,
Yeah.
but I kind of have to.
Okay. Tell me more.
Me and my fiance are kind of like at it for a little while,
Okay.
and yesterday she was drunk,
Mm-hmm.
and usually when she gets drunk, that's when things kind of get a little out of line.
Okay.
First, I was actually getting ready to head to work, and we got a little, I say, debut about the kids and stuff like
Okay.
that. So she says, "Oh, you guys pack up your shit and go." And she was just telling the kids. I said, "No, y'all don't go anywhere."
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "We're leaving," and we're kind of like standing like here, and she just looks at me, and she literally just hits me dead in my face.
Okay.
So I'm like, "Really?" I said, "That's how you feel? Now you're gonna just hit me?" She's like, "Yes, because we're leaving." So that wasn't the case. It was the actual last incident, which I have on video.
Okay.
I was about to leave, and I'm walking in, and we were basically about to leave, I guess.
Okay.
And I walk here, and she was walking past me with her laptop and stuff. And I was like, "Well, you can leave. You ain't got to take the kids." She's like, "We and the kids are leaving." And she just literally just attacked me, and I have a coat rack right behind my doorway.
Okay.
And when she pushed me, my head hit the back of the coat rack.
Okay.
So, and my roommate was actually standing right there when it happened.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it sucks because I actually do have the actual video of it right here. So that way, because I mean, my roommate is sitting right there,
Okay.
and you'll see me walk. You'll see her walking out. That's me.
Change your fucking locks.
Yeah, I mean, literally push hard, and like my doorway end is right there, so there's a coat rack right there, and that's where my head hit it.
Okay.
So I just wanted to press assault charges.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's time for that. Is this? Did we call someone last night?
No,
Okay.
actually I came down. I had to work, so I went
Okay.
to work, and then I decided to wait till I got out and all that stuff.
Okay. Cool. Just making sure I'm not duplicating work. That's all. Can I grab your ID, please?
Yes. Oh, now you see it.
I did.
You want me to take it out or no? I like this thing.
That's pretty handy, isn't it?
Yes, and it got my like work badge in it and stuff like that. I'm always losing it, so it's like, oh, I don't want to lose it. Because we're engaged. I've been trying to make this work for a while, but she really needs to go, and something needs to happen.
Yeah. It sounds like maybe things have.
Because literally, I dated a woman a long time ago, and all she said was, "He assaulted me verbally," and I was like, I'm like, really?
Wow. Was that here or somewhere else?
Yeah, listen.
Really?
Yeah. You know, it wasn't no video, it wasn't no witnesses or anything. Just her
Right.
saying that he said mean things to me and he hit me.
Mm-hmm.
No bruises, no nothing. I went to jail. I'm like, really?
Steven, what's your phone number? What's her name?
Dewana
Spell
May.
it. Spell it for me.
Dewana was kind of hard to spell. Dewana. Dawana.
Okay.
May.
M-A-Y or M-A-E?
Yep, M-A-Y.
And her last name?
That is her last name, May.
May, okay. Her birthday, please.
It is literally around Easter.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact day.
Do you know how old she is?
38.
What does she look like?
Shortest. Oh, I might have a better picture. A little clearer. That's the sound. There she is.
Okay. She white female?
Yes. Long hair, blue eyes.
Okay. And you guys have lived together on Walnut Street, right?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been together?
Year and a half.
Okay. Currently engaged?
Yes.
Okay. Have things ever gotten physical between the two of you before?
I mean, we always argued or whatever. She called the police a long time ago before because I had changed a lot since she actually stayed out all night.
Okay.
And she wanted her stuff back, and I literally wouldn't let her.
Okay.
And she had called the officer and said that, oh, he's refusing me to get my stuff, and
Mhm.
I felt threatened. No, you didn't feel threatened. I was the one feeling threatened
Mhm.
because you want to be out drunk all night, and then when I get mad because you're literally at home all night and you're supposed to be my fiance,
Mhm.
that's not the right way to do things.
Mhm.
And not answer my phone calls or the kids' phone calls.
Right. Are these your kids together or her kids?
No, those are her kids.
Okay. And how many kids does she have?
2.
Are they older, younger?
Yeah.
So what time yesterday do you think this happened? You
It
said
was-
you were coming home from work, right?
No, I was
Or
actually
you were
heading to
leaving
work.
for work?
I work
Okay.
from 9 to 9.
Okay.
And also do detailing during the day, so this was actually my first time to be able to stop in.
Okay.
I worked from 9 to 9, and it happened around, I want to say, 9 o'clock. At least that's what the camera says, so hold on one second. The camera says that event happened at 2100,
Okay.
so 9 o'clock.
Okay. And so there were kind of two separate incidents last night, right? There was the first incident where she punched you in the face.
Yeah.
Was that right in the proximity of that?
That
or
was actually before that.
Okay.
And I kind of let that slide, but
Okay.
the second time when she shoved me
Right.
and then I hit my head, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not about to sit up here and deal with this.
Right. So so she hit you once with a fist, with a closed
With
fist.
fist,
Okay. And
closed
where
fist.
do you remember where it struck you on your
It
face?
was actually, she just hit me in my head.
Okay.
No, I
Like
don't
kind of
remember.
on the side.
Yeah, a couple of little spots
Okay.
in there.
Okay. Left side or right side, would you say?
Facing you.
If she's
and
right-handed,
she's
it would be
right-handed,
your
so
left
it'd
side?
be left.
Okay. Okay, and then after that, you guys kind of separated for a little bit?
Yep.
Okay.
And then when I got ready to go in and be like, you can leave, the kids can stay,
Okay,
that's when she was like, oh, you've seen it.
right.
No, get out of my way, we're leaving. And
Yeah. Okay. So from that video, what I saw was that she shoved you with two hands back in, kind of into that entryway,
Yes.
and then that's when you stumbled back and hit your head
Yes.
on the coat rack, right? Okay. Okay. Did you feel dizzy after that? Did you?
Well, I didn't feel the knot until later on when
Okay.
I went to work.
Okay.
Because, when you have actions, you don't really feel anything
Sure.
until later on.
Yep.
And, like, right now, I can kind of feel a little knot, just a little sore, but
Okay.
nothing major.
Nothing that you need an ambulance for or anything like that? Okay. And then,
Ibuprofen might do it.
sure. After you kind of fell backwards into that, into the coat rack, what happened next? Did it stop? Did she leave? Did she?
Well, what it is like the doorway is kind of very narrow. So
Okay.
when she pushed me and I fell back into it, I hit my head like this.
Okay.
And I literally moved forward, and as I was moving forward, she was still kind of guarding her way out.
Okay.
So when she went out, we were both trying to squeeze through the front door until
Okay.
she went outside.
Okay.
And I basically was like pretty much heading outside.
Okay. Have you guys had any contact since then?
Besides, I went and actually kind of disabled the phones this morning
Okay.
because I woke up this morning and my whole phone was, so she has my Gmail and all that stuff, and I literally was kind of going to leave it alone.
Okay.
But when I wake up this morning, all of my Gmail stuff is deleted. All of my contacts are deleted. I had to go spend time at T-Mobile and take away from work. And I just kind of thought about it. A friend of mine was like, dude, go press charges. This is not the first time she hit you. She hit you twice in one day.
Yeah.
You just letting her just run all over you. He says, you need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense to me. But no contact between the two of you.
This is a couple phone calls from work, and she says, can I come get my stuff? And I said, well, let me think about that. And then that's what I kind of went for.
Okay. So do you think she's at the house right now?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I did change the locks.
Where do you think she'd be?
Maybe at her mom.
You know mom's name?
I always call her mom, so now you got me
Sure.
thinking. Sheesh. Literally, that is just so funny because I literally call her mom all the time. Kathy, I believe?
Kathy. Okay.
I want to say that. Could be right.
Sure. Do you know Dwana's phone number? But the phone service is cut off, right?
The phone number shut off, but I do have the number that she was using. Which
Okay.
Was,
Okay, so that was somebody else's number that she was using?
which we have a 4-line T-Mobile account.
Okay.
I have a phone. She has a phone. We have a tablet.
Okay, got it.
So I didn't turn his phone off because he's a good kid.
Sure.
And I knew she was probably going to get his phone and use it,
Yeah.
for communication.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So just a couple quick things. I'm going to grab some photos, okay? I don't see anything visible on your face, but
Right.
just because that makes sense. Bruises
sorry.
don't always, well,
I'm being honest.
no, complexion plays a
Yeah.
role in it. Bruises
yeah.
don't always pop up right away, you know what I mean? We're not saying it could have been the hardest hit in the
Right.
world. There's a lot of reasons
And
why
like I said,
I
it's
would
more
see
of the
something.
not back here.
Right. You mind if I
don't know
just
you
take a
can
look
see
at that?
it. Up, yeah, right there.
Right there?
Oh,
yeah, I can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I can feel
It's
it.
sore.
For sure. So, okay, I just got to take some pictures real quick. Look that way for me. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a picture of the back of your head. You're probably not going to be able to see anything in that picture, but
Right.
is this a little bit of dried blood under your ear? Is that
Is it?
related?
Oh wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah, here, I'll take a picture and show you exactly what I'm looking at here. Because I know you can't really see your
It
own
could be
ear.
possible.
There's a little bit
Oh
of dried
my
blood
God,
under
I didn't
there.
even notice that.
So, just what is that? You didn't cut yourself shaving or anything? That could be
No, I
attributed to
didn't.
that?
It
Okay.
could be. Like I said, I didn't even notice.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, it is.
So,
I just cut bleed sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm bleeding.
yeah, no,
Especially at work.
right, or you get a bruise and you're like,
Yeah.
what did I do there? Okay.
Oh, and that actually could have been what she punched me.
Yeah, that would make sense if it split the skin a little bit there. Yeah. So, okay, this is your report number right here. This is me and my badge number. In this pamphlet, there's some info, just, so this is considered a crime of domestic violence, okay? So there's some things in here, just some rights that you have, some information for protection orders and things like that. What's going to happen next is I'm going to do, we have 24 hours to find her and arrest her without an arrest warrant, okay? After that 24 hours, it's got to go up through the prosecutor's office and they have to issue a warrant and things like that. If and when she's arrested, there will be a protection order put in place by the judge. It's mandatory on every domestic violence arrest. That protection order will prevent any contact between the two of you, and she's also not allowed to be at the house. Okay. But the reason that I want to make sure you have that PPO information is because since she's not in custody right now and there's a gap, if she's not at mom's house, I can check a couple of the places, but if she's not in custody in the next 24 hours, there's going to be a gap in time before that protection order comes into play. Okay, so in that case, it might not be a bad idea to seek a PPO against her, just to give you a little bit more.
No, this is why I was kind of worried about the PTOs because I still take the kids to school and watch them and all that stuff. She brings them to me. I just want her to learn a lesson.
Sure.
And
I just want to pause it for a second. Did you just say, I just want her to learn her lesson? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
if we talk and can maybe make some things out, I can always come down and say, hey, let's drop this.
Right.
Da, da, da.
Right.
Okay.
No, at the end of the day, you have the decision of whether or not you want to participate in prosecution as it moves forward. At this point, I am going to take the report. I am going to seek charges. All of those things are going to happen regardless because of the way that our state domestic violence laws are written. But if down the line you decide that you'd like to drop charges, you have the ability to do that.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Because this, besides with her, and that's when she drinks, it gets out of control.
Sure. Is it violent out of control or just yelling, screaming, kind of? Yeah.
You know, drinking kind of, I'm sure you've been dealing with people that drinks quite a bit.
Absolutely.
She's not a happy thing.
Yeah.
You know, she drinks because she's feeling depressed or she's having issues or she's upset about something.
Right.
And I don't believe going to drinking when you feel that way is the best thing. So I just signed us up for. Actually went to our first meeting. We were supposed to have our second meeting Tuesday and Wednesday. And I'm trying the best. And I sat down with a friend of mine that's been married for almost 20-some years. He says, I press charges on my wife.
Yeah.
I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He said, sometimes you have to do that, dude. You can't just sit up there and let a man or a woman disabuse you and then not do anything about it.
Right.
So.
No, I agree, and unfortunately, sometimes we have to get involved for behavior modification to happen. But if this is something that can help you guys and can help, you know, I mean, first and foremost is your safety and your ability to live your life. You deserve that, you know, regardless of what.
Yeah, because I didn't even want to go to work. You know, and it's because I work third shift. She actually works first shift there. So I'm like, I didn't even go. Like, I was supposed to be there. And I even called my supervisor, like, look, this is what happened, da da da.
Yeah.
I'm shook up. I'm not even mentally, physically to even work tonight.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, kind of.
Yeah. I don't envy the place that you're in, you know, with having to deal with this stuff. But you're doing the right thing. Even if it doesn't feel like it, you are doing the right thing. Because there's a lot of steps between this conversation and her going to prison, right? Like, there's a lot of interventions, especially if this is the first thing, if this is, you know, courts can impose counseling and all of those things.
Because her defense is that, oh, you've hit me. No, after you attack me every time, I kind of have to defend myself a little bit to kind of get out of the situation.
Right.
Like, she hit me 5, 6, 7 times, and I might hit her once just to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
But that's after she done pretty much just wailed on me. And I'm like, or I was laying on the couch one day, and literally she comes in mad. Of course we can't record this because it's a long time ago, that's why I got the cameras. And she literally just walks past me and just started hitting me. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? So I had to literally kind of like kick her just to get her off me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nonsense.
Yeah. How often do you think stuff like that happens?
Well, I will say,
I think it's going to keep going. Judge, if you want me to stop it, I certainly can.
Okay.
He's addressed at least the questions that you've asked. I don't think anything else is in the scope of impeachment right now.
Yes, Judge. Figure out how to stop sharing.
I can take care of that.
Thank you. All right. So you had to go down to T-Mobile for whatever reason, right? And you also had to change the locks, right? Okay. So you did all that, and then you came down and sat outside of here and called 911?
No, I just talked to the police station and used the phone inside of the police station.
Okay. So you called them and said, hey,
I need to file a report.
I need to file a report. You are a really soft speaker. Can you try just as best you can to kind of, you know, speak a little louder? We just want to make sure we understand the responses. So how many times have you changed the locks on Donna?
I said at least twice that I was sure of.
Okay, at least twice. Okay. And is that because you were unhappy because she stayed out all night? I think that's what you said. She stayed out all night. She didn't answer your phone calls, didn't respond to your messages.
Yeah, one of the situations, I think it was Rutherford birthday. We were supposed to go out, but we ended up not going. So she went over to her girlfriend's, stayed out all night. I was calling her trying to figure out where she was at. She never responded back. Matter of fact, it went on into the next day afternoon. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to sit up here and play the game. So I actually changed the locks.
Okay. When did you put a tracker on her car?
Never did that.
No, okay. You put location services on her phone.
They automatically come with it. iPhones and T-Mobile apps, especially if you have a family plan,
Mhm.
it always comes with the family apps or whatever, to where like if you want to track the kids, make sure that they're safe, or even vice versa, that's already built into the phone. Even my own phone actually will actually track me wherever I go.
So I have an iPhone and I have to actually enable that device. You're saying that it automatically turns on when you get a new phone?
No, T-Mobile has that service that's already added to the family plan, and
Okay,
all you have to have on is your location,
so,
which is like your Google Maps and stuff like that.
so you were trying to track her location through that?
No, I didn't
No,
try. I
okay.
didn't have to.
Okay. How long after that June incident did you call Duana's mom to tell her to bring the ring back?
I never really called her to tell her to bring the ring back. She had asked for her stuff back. I say, well, tell her to give me the ring back and the jewelry, and she come get all of her stuff.
Okay. When did you tell her that if she didn't come back, you were gonna ruin her life?
Told her that I was doing her life. I mean, I'm trying to actually help us together, try to make a life. I mean,
Mhm.
people say stuff being bitter, but no, shit, I'm trying to ruin her life.
Okay. Tell her you're gonna call CPS on Duana?
No.
You call CPS on Duana?
No, I did not.
Okay.
My caseworker is the person that did that from DHS.
Okay. You have a caseworker from DHS?
Well, it's my therapist.
Okay. So, you remember hearing about you talking about not knowing where the blood came from on your ear?
I didn't know that I was even bleeding.
Uh-huh, but today you said it came from the punch, right?
Well, yeah, after me and the cop talked, I mean, it was just kind of common. I didn't have any blood on me at all before the incident. And I'm not just normally bleeding.
And this happened at 9 o'clock the night before. Do you know when you came down to make a report?
I came down to report the next day.
Right, do you know what time?
I did few details. I was at T-Mobile, so I had been Simmons at the news.
Like 3:30, if that's what the dash cam or
Something
body
like
cam
that.
says? Okay. All right. So you even talk about maybe we can work some things out. I can always say, hey, let's drop this, la da da.
I didn't even have time. I wanted to come down.
Right, but I'm saying after you did, after you made all the effort, changed the locks, came down here, waited on the cop to come drive up and take your statement. Then you told her what happened and said, hey, well, if we get through the process and I decide I want to drop it, can I drop it?
Didn't even want to go down and press the charges.
It's kind of a yes or no
Yes.
question. Okay, all right, got it. And before the officer even brings anything up, you say her defense is going to be that, oh, he's hitting me. Do you remember hearing that?
I don't remember, but I'm sure that's probably what I have said before in several occasions.
Okay, okay. And then you admit to hitting her, right?
No.
No, you didn't say you can't record this because it was a long time ago, about 16 minutes into that footage?
You talk about I'm confused.
When you were talking to the cop?
About me hitting her?
Yeah,
No, I have defended myself, but not
Okay.
just hitting her, and it really not even a hit.
and you even said, I had to kick her just to get her off of me?
That's why I said I never hit her. That was an incident that happened way prior to that.
Got it, okay, okay. So I just want to make sure, because you guys were together for a year and a half, right? You were engaged. And you spelled her name Dawana.
Mhm.
Do you know her name spelled Duonna?
Oh, I had a problem with that at the prosecuting attorney, everything. We was all trying to figure out if it was O or U.
Okay, okay,
And even the lady was kind of confused at the prosecuting thing on how to spell it. So I wasn't
Okay.
the only one.
sure. And the officer asked you for a birth date, you say it's around April, around Easter? You don't know her birthday?
We have gotten fights because of that.
Okay, well, I gotta say, my husband doesn't remember mine.
And even
So
with
it's
our
like-
engagement, that was one of the issues that we got into it because I didn't exactly remember what day, because her birthday is kind of around Easter time. And I didn't remember, and we got into a big argument about it. I mean, I get it. Which one they would be mad if they husband or fiance didn't remember.
Sure, I wasn't happy when my husband forgot mine,
I forget my mom sometimes.
right? Is your phone number 517-214-8378?
Yes.
Remember ordering a GPS tracker on June 22nd from a guy named Nate?
I never ended up ordering it.
Oh, okay. What happened?
I didn't even feel the need anymore. And then when I realized that our phones kind of already had it, I'm like, well, no need to bother spending money. And then I think it was a monthly fee that you had to pay.
Okay, all right.
That I wasn't wanting to do that.
So I had a couple questions. Do you remember sending a message to her on June 25th, which is after this would have happened? We need to talk, call me.
I'm sure.
Okay, at about 1:37. Your phone is on now. My aunt told you we need to talk. This is important.
Yeah, my aunt is kind of my go-to for advice, kind of like my mom.
Okay,
They're both good sisters, and I was talking to her about the situation
okay.
and stuff like that. And I told her I had to turn the phones off, and she said, "Why?" She said, "Turn them back on." She's like, "Y'all are acting very immature about this." She said, "I kind of pre-warned y'all. Y'all need to get serious about the counseling and all this other stuff," which is she was the one that talked me into the counseling. We
Your
did-
aunt?
Yes.
Okay.
We did one session, and that was pretty much it. Matter of fact, it was kind of embarrassing when we went to the first session, because when we went there, she asked the therapist if she could bring alcohol.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna kind of get back to this. Did you send her a message on June 25th saying, really sorry, our stupidity, the people stopped by the house, now I'm scared?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you mad, please call me back, we need to talk, I talked to my lawyer, we need to talk, sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, please call me the next day. Okay. Judge, can you give me a second?
Yeah, we have to take a break because I have to send them downstairs to see Treasury before they leave.
Okay. You are you saying we're breaking right now?
I'm gonna take a break
Okay.
right now,
Yes, Judge.
and we need to bring someone up from the jail. You're gonna follow Mr. Warrensley so you all can go get your payments for today. All right.
Legally.
Okay, so you can go next to your attorney. I don't know if I have the file. File over here.
I don't have it.
You're on the approach. That's the plea sheet and the restitution sheet. And Mr. Lee's seen or signed both of them.
I think Sean did something.
Not do it. Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Mark Mitchell. File number is 23-03129. Council appearance.
Assistant Prosecutor Paige Petrosky on behalf of the people.
Assistant Public Defender John Lee on behalf of Mark Mitchell.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell, today was the date set for a pre-trial. I have an offer here. It says the people are offering for you to plead guilty to added count 2 of retail fraud 3rd degree with restitution owing in the amount of $283.88 in exchange for a guilty plea to added count 2. They'll dismiss count 1. And my understanding is that you want to accept that offer.
Yes, ma'am.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
I do not.
Okay, I do have an advice of rights and plea information sheet with today's date on it. Is that your signature on this document?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Did you read this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the rights listed here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions about any of these rights?
No, Your Honor.
And are you willing to give up these rights today in order to plead guilty to the added count 2 of retail fraud in the 3rd degree?
I am, Your Honor.
You understand that that means you're giving up your right to the presumption of innocence. So you're innocent until proven guilty, and you have the right to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt at a trial by proving each element of the charge being brought against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
I do.
You have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used against you. You have the right to confront your accusers in court and cross-examine them or have witnesses subpoenaed to testify on your behalf. Or you have the right to present evidence at your trial to further any defenses to the charge being brought against you. You understand that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Anybody threatening you to get you to waive your rights and enter a guilty plea today?
No, Your Honor.
Any promises being made to you in exchange for a guilty plea?
No, Your Honor.
You understand that a conviction of this kind may need to be reported to your current or future employer.
I do, Your Honor.
And also a conviction of this kind could have impact on where you can travel or impact on immigration status that you may be seeking.
I do, Your Honor.
As to the added count 2 of retail fraud 3rd degree, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Did I ask you where you're on probation or parole?
Not yet.
You're going to be, you're saying?
I am, yes, sir.
Okay, you're being held on something other than this, of course.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and are you pleading guilty because you believe you're guilty?
I am, Your Honor.
Factual basis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mitchell, on or about November 15th, 2022, were you at the address of 3106 East Saginaw Street? I was. And that's commonly referred to as Rite Aid. That's correct. Okay. And that's in the city of Lansing, County of England? That is correct. Okay. And on that day, did you take without paying items from Rite Aid? Yes, I did. And you did that on purpose? Yes. Wasn't an accident? That is. Okay. Some of those items might have included 2 bottles of Elijah Craig bourbon, 2 bottles of Kettle One vodka, 2 bottles of Bumble rum, and so forth? That is correct. Okay. And you don't dispute that the amount of restitution owed is $283.88? Okay. No further questions.
Any questions from you, Ms. Petrosky?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
The court is satisfied with the factual basis. I'll accept your plea. I find your plea to be made freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. What was his bond? $750. Okay, well, I can't credit in time, sir. Yeah, go ahead. Let's see. How long you gonna be in custody?
A year.
Okay, well, you're fine. That will be waived and you'll have restitution order and ordered in the amount of $283.88 to order to Rite Aid. I will credit you any time served to the extent that you have any, and we're all set. Thank you. Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing from the people, Your Honor.
Depends on how you look at it, right? Hopefully someone else will know.
All of this, yeah.
Okay, I guess we can call the jury back.
Call that.
Yeah.
And the witness.
Not, yeah, for today. At least.
Rise for the jury. Okay, you can be seated. Okay, Mr. Rutherford, you are still under oath, okay? And due to the temperature in here, I did have to turn the fan back on. It's very stuffy in here. So I need you to use your outside voice for us, okay?
Got you, Judge. All right, so I think, Mr. Rutherford, we were kind of talking about some text messages, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember sending her a text message on June 4th at 12:21 a.m. saying, where the fuck you at?
Not really, but I'm sure I probably have said to text that.
Okay, garage sales are over, it's 8 at night and you're not answering.
I'm sure.
11:30, what the fuck, I see.
I'm gonna say that.
Okay. Not even a call, you're bullshit. Did you say yeah?
She didn't, yeah, didn't get a call.
Okay, okay. Okay,
Counsel, can you approach?
yes, Judge. Want me to wait until,
Yes, please. Okay, you can proceed.
thank you. So we saw the video camera, right?
Yes.
We saw that 20-minute clip, right? How many cameras do you have in your house?
Actually, I have a total of probably 6, 8 cameras.
6 to 8 cameras. Where are they at?
4 to 5 are located outside, and the other 3 are located inside.
4 to 5 plus 3, okay. So where, when you say 4 or 5 are located outside, where are they?
One's on the garage, all of the entranceways and the windows, basically, so that why they break in and whatever. And the ones on the inside is just basically living room, dining room, kitchen area.
Living room, dining room, kitchen. Okay. So were any pointed at, you said they're all on the front of the house or on the entries of the house?
Well, it's on the entranceways of like the back door, front door,
Okay.
window areas. So that way.
So you have a camera pointed at the door that Duana pushed out of, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Duana helped you order at least some of them, right?
I'm sure I had an order, one or two, like, hey, I need another camera.
Okay.
I'm sure yeah.
And helped you install them?
I wouldn't necessarily help me install them, like put them up, but maybe help them like get connected to the internet and stuff like that.
Okay. How are they powered?
Battery,
Okay. So they're battery powered.
yes. Now, remember I said if the power goes out, they still work.
Mhm. Okay. That's nice. Judge, can you give me just a second? I just want to check one thing. No further questions, Judge.
Questions from the jury? Okay, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had a couple different things I want to go through. But I'll start with where we just ended. You said that the surveillance was battery powered.
Yes.
Are the batteries able to be removed?
The USB charge.
Why did you change the locks after the assault occurred?
Well, she said she was leaving. She wasn't coming back, and I had asked for the key. She was like, "Well, change the lock like you normally do." And I mean, like that's at that time and moment, I figured it was over. She wasn't coming back. She wasn't giving me the key. So why would I have a sensible in the house being wide open? And then she can just come when she wants, and I have belongings in there as well.
Did you have any safety concerns?
Not until then,
Until when?
the situation.
The assault?
Yes.
Both. In your, well, not much in your testimony, but in the video from when you were speaking with Sergeant Robeson, you mentioned that you wanted the kids to stay, but you were fine if she left. Why did you want the kids to stay?
Like I said,
Objection, Your Honor. What's the relevance?
Do you want to respond to the objection?
I think it potentially speaks to what his experiences or what his perceptions were of what was going on at the time, and also what potentially the defendant's state of mind was at the time as well.
I'll allow it. Objections overruled.
Yes, Judge.
So why did you want the kids to stay?
well, me and her kids had pretty much got a good relationship going on. Like I said, I would work 9 to 9. I would get out, maybe sleep a couple hours, and I'll be the one to take them back and forth to school. So we had a little bit of attachment, and she wanted to go, and I'm actually like, well, you need the kids. If you want to go, that's fine, because we've had a conversation before where the kids would stay with me, and she kind of did what she wanted, and I had no problem watching. And I was just attached to him where I'm like, well, if you want to go and cool off, or I thought the situation will be kind of solved. They could have stayed, you could have went cooled off, whatever you want to do, whether you're okay, that's what it was me.
And in when you were speaking with Sergeant Robeson, you mentioned a prior incident where with a former relationship where you talked about potentially kicking her to get her off, like get her off of you. Would basically, why were you in that instance? Why were you kicking her?
She was actually attacking me, so it was kind of get off me. And that's pretty much all I do. That's why I'm saying, like, sometimes I did have to look at myself, but that would be like something I would do, or hold to sustain. Matter of fact, I do security, so that's what they would have to teach us before we get into a physical violent situation. I did security at Norfolk, and I was actually doing it for General Motors at the time. So I could actually defend myself, so I didn't really have to attack anyone. I didn't know how to kind of defend myself without having to hurt somebody.
Further questions?
Any questions from the jury? May this witness be excused?
Yes, you may, Your Honor.
You may be excused, Mr. Rutherford. And the people can call their next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Sergeant Hannah Robeson. I think she's in fourth. Robeson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. You can have a seat. And you can state your first and last name and spell both.
Hannah Robeson, HANNAHROBESON.
You can proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Sergeant Robeson. Where do you work?
Lansing Police Department.
And how long have you worked for Lansing?
A little over 9 years.
What are your duties?
I'm a night shift patrol sergeant.
Were you working as a police officer on June 23rd, 2023?
Yes, I was.
When you were working that day, did you speak with someone named Stephen Rutherford?
I did.
Why did you speak with him?
I was dispatched to a walk-in assault complaint at our headquarters.
And where did you speak?
On the front steps of our police department.
When you spoke with him, did he have any visible injuries?
Yes.
Can you describe those injuries?
He had a small laceration under his left ear and a bump on the back of his head.
What was your impression of those injuries?
Can you be more specific?
Actually, let me just take that back. Bad question. Did he describe an assault to you?
Yes, he did.
Did he give you the name of who he said did the assault?
Yes.
Did he provide you with his best estimation of where she'd be?
Yes.
Did you check that location?
I requested that Eaton County Sheriff's Office check that location.
When you're speaking to complainants or just to people in the community, how do you try to approach them?
I try to treat everyone with respect and give them a fair shot at whatever it is that they have to tell me.
Do you ever try to make them feel comfortable?
Yes, absolutely.
Why is that?
Aside from just generating a person-to-person communication, I find that people are more willing to be open and honest with me if they feel comfortable.
You said you'd been with Lansing PD for almost 9 years?
A little over 9 years.
Over 9. Have you had experience with domestic assault and domestic violence?
Yes.
Have you ever taken a report from someone who it would be considered a late report?
Yes.
Is that a frequent occurrence?
It's not uncommon, yes.
When you speak with victims of domestic violence, do they all present with the same demeanor?
No.
What are some different ways that they might be acting?
The range of reactions in victims of not only domestic violence, but any crime can really range from a lack of affect whatsoever to a level of hysteria, crying, things like that. I've seen lots of different reactions to similar situations.
Were you concerned that Mr. Rutherford, well, I should say, how did Mr. Rutherford, what was his demeanor when he was speaking with you?
He was calm. I think so.
Did that set off alarm bells in your head?
No.
And why is that?
Because how I previously described that the range of emotions in victims can vary greatly.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Judge. Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. So I'm Tiffany DeBruin. I represent Duana May. And she is the person who is accused. So I wanted to touch base with you about a couple of things. I noticed you wore your gun in today.
I did.
Is that something that you just wear all the time?
Not typically. It's usually with me in some capacity, but it's part of my uniform.
Okay. But you're not in uniform, right? You have a really nice blue and white blouse on and nice pants.
Correct. Our court uniform is typically addressing in business casual, or we can also wear our marked uniform.
Got it. Okay. So I wanted to touch base with you. How well do you remember this interview?
Fairly well.
Okay. Because it was like 6 months ago.
Correct.
And I'll be honest, I have a hard time remembering what I had for lunch like 2 days ago. Did you watch the video and look over your report before today?
I did review my report, yes.
Anything on the video?
I didn't watch my body cam
Sure.
before I came in because my memory was fairly strong based
Okay.
on my report.
Good deal. So let me ask you this. How many cases have you handled since this incident?
Well, that's almost an impossible question to answer.
Okay.
Typically, particularly on that noon shift, I would take anywhere from 20 to 25 calls a day.
Okay. And you work 5 days a week?
Ish.
Okay. So it's safe to say a lot of cases. Okay. So when did you decide that you were going to seek charges against Duana?
So my main purpose in taking the report was to gather the facts as they were reported to me,
Mhm.
and then submit that report to the prosecutor's office for a charge decision to be made.
Okay. And is that how it usually works?
Yes.
Okay. So before you became an officer, you went to training at the academy, right?
Correct.
And you graduated from the Mid-Michigan Police Academy,
Yes.
December of 2014.
Got it.
I've been doing my research.
I can tell.
I Facebook stalked you. So you took classes at the academy to teach you how to be an officer, right? How to do an investigation.
Correct.
Okay. And part of your training is on investigations, right?
Yes.
And preserving evidence.
Yes.
One of the ways you do that is with a report.
Correct.
So they train you how to write reports, right?
Yes.
And when you're trained, they tell you what to include, right?
Yes.
Why to include it. And you've written thousands over the years.
It's a pretty great number. Yes.
Sure, I understand. And you wrote the report for this incident, right?
I did.
Said that you just you reviewed it. When did you write it? Do you remember?
I wrote it that same shift.
Okay. And how long is the shift?
10 hours.
10 hours. Do you remember when you came to the call or when you had an interaction with him?
You know, I don't recall the specific time of day. I do remember that it was daylight out.
Okay.
So that narrows it down to the first half of my shift.
So if the body cam said about 13:39, that would be what, like 1:30?
It may have been later than that. My shift started at 3 p.m.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it may have said 15:39 would make a little more sense. But
Yeah.
I don't recall. the
No, that's
specific time.
okay. I probably have it wrong. We can certainly look at that. Okay, so now you realize that the reports are what the prosecutor goes off of to see if they're gonna press charges, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's if you don't arrest the person first, right?
Correct. That also, if there is an arrest made, the charging decisions are still ultimately made by the prosecutor. So my report is reviewed the same way by the prosecutor, regardless of if it's an in custody case or a case where we're seeking charges.
Okay, got it. But you make the decision if you're gonna go out and arrest a person.
Correct.
Okay. And you're trained that the reports are supposed to be thorough, right?
Correct.
And include all relevant information,
Yes.
all investigative steps.
Yes.
And you've been taught how important it is to be truthful, right?
Yes.
And accurate
Yes.
and complete.
Yeah.
Everything. Okay. I know I'm beating a dead horse, just bear with me. So why is it so important to do that?
So that the prosecutor has the best information when making charging decisions.
Okay. And then when do you send this report in?
Once my report is completed, it's submitted to a supervisor who will review it for completeness. And then that will go through the process of going to a detective who will create a packet of documents and take that packet over to the prosecutor's office where it's ultimately reviewed.
Okay. Do you believe that this police report that you drafted in this situation is accurate,
I do.
complete,
I do, to the best of my memory.
thorough?
Yes.
So when you reviewed it before today's trial, was there anything that you thought was incorrect or was missing?
No.
And is there anything that you would change?
No.
Do differently?
No.
Okay. So another way, we talked about body cam, so let's just skip all the peremptory stuff. You were wearing your body cam
Yes.
and it recorded the entirety of the video.
Correct.
Okay, audio and video, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, the only person you had contact with was Stephen Rutherford, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you were responding to a report of DV that happened the day before.
Correct.
Okay. And he told you that there were other people in the house, right?
Yes.
And you saw the video, right?
I did.
And there is a guy standing or sitting at a table literally 7 feet away, right?
There was a male, I wasn't clear if that was an adult or a child at that point.
Okay, okay. And your job when you take the report is not to determine who's guilty or innocent, right?
Correct.
It's just to take the report
Yes.
and the facts.
Correct.
And write down the facts,
Yes.
not opinions.
Correct.
Okay. And another step of your investigation is to ask about historical acts, right?
Yes.
And because, well, why do you do that? Can you tell us?
When I'm speaking with a complainant, particularly on a late complaint, it helps me to know a little bit of history in the incident and between the victim and maybe the aggressor, so that it can provide some context that I don't necessarily have. If I'm investigating an incident the day of, I have the luxury of a little bit more context. I can speak with witnesses that were directly there. I can speak to the other involved person, things like that. I can see the environment in which it happened. I don't have the luxury of those things when I'm taking a late complaint. So that's where the information about past acts becomes important.
And you asked Stephen about past acts, right?
I did.
And he actually, well, you know what, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. So first he said, do you remember him saying, you want to hit me dead in the face?
I don't recall that exact statement, but it's not.
Okay. If we were to look at your body cam, would that refresh your recollection?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bear with me while I get to the actual portion where we talk about it. Rather, where you guys talk about it.
She was just telling kids, I said, no, y'all don't go anywhere. And she says, we're leaving. And we're kind of like standing like here, and she just looks at me, and she literally just hits me dead in my face.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so do you agree with me that he said she hits me dead in the face?
Yes,
And he punched straight at your face?
yes.
Okay. You change his story a little bit later?
What do you mean?
Did he say she hit him somewhere else later in the conversation?
I recall him recounting a shove that happened where he fell backwards and hit his head.
So you don't recall him saying she hit me on the left side of the face and rubbing his whole face?
I may have to refer to my body cam for that
Sure.
specific sentence.
That's okay. Always a matter of figuring out exactly where it is. Okay, we'll get there. So he declined medical treatment, right?
Yes,
And he said that he didn't actually feel the knot until he went to work later on.
Yeah.
He didn't know there was dried blood, right?
I think I pointed that out.
And when you asked, is it related? He wasn't like, yep, that must be from where she punched me. He said it could be possible. Right?
Yes,
Do you remember him saying, I cut myself at work and I'm bleeding and I don't even know it?
I don't remember that statement. No.
It's not in your police report, is it?
No.
If he had said something like that, would it be important?
If I had remembered that, yes, it's possible that I missed that detail.
Okay. You say in your report, I observed a small laceration at the base of Stephen's ear that had some dried blood around it, quote, which he attributed to this punch. Do you remember saying that in your report?
Yes.
Okay. Did he attribute that to the punch? Yeah.
Not in that specific clip, but I believe that that was part of our conversation later.
Okay. So do you recall any point where he said this is from the punch?
I don't recall that exactly.
Okay. But if he didn't say that, would it have made it into your report?
My report would be my interpretation of his meaning when the things that he said. So if I misunderstood him, then that was just part of my understanding of what he was saying.
Okay. So let's talk about that. What does the word constantly mean to you?
To me, that word would mean that things happen repeatedly in a relative pattern of sorts.
Okay, so if you were throwing out a number, what would constantly start at? Does that question make sense to you? Yeah. So when you use the word constantly, when you personally use the word constantly, how many times does it take to get to constant? 4, 5, 2?
You know, I don't know that I have a specific method for when I use that word.
Is it more than 3?
That would make sense, but again, I don't have anything specific.
Okay. What about several?
To me, several is 3 or more.
Okay. So you asked him about prior instances of domestic violence, right?
Yes.
And do you remember him saying 2 to 3 times tops?
Again, I don't remember that exactly.
Okay.
How often do you think stuff like that happens?
well, I will say, for about a year and a half, maybe twice, maybe 3 times tops.
Okay.
Which to me,
So did he say 2, maybe 3 times tops?
Yes, I heard him say that.
Okay. And in your report that the prosecutor uses to decide whether they're going to issue charges against people. Do you recall saying Stephen advised that this type of assault was not new for him, but he has reached the point where he believes Duana needs to be held accountable for constantly assaulting him?
Yes, I remember that.
And there have been several instances where Duana has assaulted Stephen in the past?
Yes, I remember.
Okay. And actually, when you asked about historical events, do you remember Stephen saying Duana called the police on him a long time ago? Because he changed the locks when she stayed out all night?
Yes.
Okay. And that a long time ago was 1.5 years of a relationship, right?
That was fine.
Sure, yep, that makes sense. And he said he was mad because Duana was out all night and she was supposed to be his fiance, and that's not the right way to do things.
Are you referring to the previous
Yeah,
instance? I remember him saying something to that effect.
sure. So I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. You're not advised or encouraged or there's no suggestion anywhere for you to put opinions in the reports, right?
Correct.
Or give your opinion to the complainant, right?
Correct.
About moving forward with charges?
Correct.
Whether it's smart or not?
No, it's not. Typically,
Okay. But in fact, that is exactly what you said to Stephen, isn't it?
Can you refresh my memory on that?
Sure.
So, kind of.
Yeah, I don't envy the place that you're in, you know, with having to deal with this stuff, but you're doing the right thing. Even if it doesn't feel like it, you are doing the right thing.
Okay.
Because
So you just told him he's doing the right thing by moving forward with charges?
So my interpretation in my meeting when I said that was I encourage people to involve law enforcement if there's violence involved. Ultimately, charging decisions again are made by the prosecutor, but I do encourage people to reach out to law enforcement. There are resources that we can offer. If I'm not getting the whole picture, that's obviously a possibility. However, I do think it's the right call for people to involve law enforcement when violence is involved in the home.
Okay. Do you remember him telling you what Duana's defense would be when you talked to her? Her defense is that, oh, he's hit me.
I don't recall him saying that, but it's possible.
there's a lot of steps between this conversation and her going to prison, right? Like there's a lot of interventions, especially if this is the first thing, if this is, you know, courts can impose counseling and all of those
Because her
things.
defense is that, oh, he's hit me. No, after
Did you hear him say, oh, her defense is he's hit me?
Yes.
Did you write that in your report anywhere?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And then he goes into talking about something a long time ago where he kicked her. Oh, now again, a long time ago, within a year and a half that they've been in a relationship, right? That he kicked her. Do you remember hearing about that?
Yes.
Okay. And did you put that in your report?
I didn't because that was a specific to a previous act that was described and not relevant to this specific situation.
But I was thinking, you said that historical information was important because it gives context to what's going on now, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And then you heard him talk about
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And just so I understand, your conversation with him was, we have about, so if I look on the video, it's about 20 minutes and 27 seconds. And so that's the entirety of your interview with him?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember saying before 13 minutes, I have 24 hours to find and arrest her?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't talk to the guy that was sitting at the table 5 to 7 feet away in the video.
No, I did not.
Okay. You didn't even try to contact that person.
Correct.
Judge, I have no further questions.
Any questions from the jury? Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you're speaking with someone who you, based off the information you received, you believe is a victim, do you always use precise legal language with them?
No.
You sometimes, I guess I should say, what are your focuses when you're trying to speak with a victim?
In obtaining the relevant information for the incident that they're reporting.
Are you concerned ever with their comfort or their safety concerns?
Yes,
Do you try to address those safety concerns?
I do.
What are some ways that you try to address those safety concerns?
I try to determine the location of where the possible aggressor may be. I try to answer any questions that they may have about the process and explain the next steps of what I will do and what they can expect from me.
So like giving them information about a personal protection order or PPO, or giving them the victim kit.
Yes,
When you're doing that, is your number one concern going to be being as precise in your language as possible?
not necessarily.
In your over 9 years of experience talking with victims of any type of crime, but specifically assault crimes, do victims ever have trouble remembering like the specific sequencing of events?
Yes,
Do they sometimes get details mixed up?
they do.
Is that pretty common?
It is.
Even in instances where you 100% know with all certainty that a crime occurred?
Yes.
And then I just want to clarify one more point. We're talking about getting historical info on the relationship and potential past assaults and things like that. And you had said that it is important. Is it important for the fact-finding process or your investigation?
I do believe it's important in my investigation, yes.
When you're writing a police report, do you include every single detail that you receive?
Not necessarily.
And how do you decide what is included versus not?
I include the details that I believe are the most relevant to the incident, specifically with the facts that are reported to me.
No further questions.
Any questions from the jury? Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be excused.
Thank you. Irene.
Gonna give the jury a 5-minute break so they can stretch. Off the record.
Right.
All rise for the jury. Wow.
Okay, you can be seated. Okay. The defense calling their first witness.
Yes, Judge, I'm gonna go grab Miss Katrina Grastowle. Stand, sit right next to the guy in green.
I'm gonna have you raise your right hand first. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
You can have a seat.
Okay, so can you state and spell your name for the record and be sure to speak up, because what I will say is the soft speakers, we want everybody to be able to hear them, okay? Go ahead.
Katrina Grastowle,
How do you spell that?
Grestowle.
Okay, and it's Katrina, Katrina.
Yes.
Okay. Do want as your daughter, right?
Yeah.
We'll just jump right into it. So, okay. If I were called in court to testify for my mom, I would lie. I'm just being honest, okay? And so you're called in here today, so we assume that you're gonna say something positive about Juana, right?
I will try. I'll do the best I can.
So what makes us think that you're not gonna lie for her?
I'm not willing to go to jail or prison for anybody.
Okay? So all I'm asking you to tell me is the truth, okay? So when you answer, it has to
Yes,
be a
ma'am.
yes, thank you. One of the things that you'll notice is the record does not pick up the or no, or it certainly doesn't get the shoulder shrugs. So what is your relationship to Stephen Rutherford?
I just know him through my daughter. We're dating.
Okay, she was actually engaged to him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How often do you and Stephen talk?
Whenever he would get upset or angry or mad. The last time that I talked to him, he was very, very angry at her. He thought she would come back. It was like 2 days after she left. He said that he would make her life miserable and hell.
Okay, so when you say 2 days after she left, are you talking about the incident on June 22nd when she left the house for good?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's all right. So you okay? Okay. Judge, are there tissues anywhere?
It's usually a box in there. There's Kleenex in there.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. Around and around. Okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. Just take a second, take a deep breath. Nothing wrong. We talked about emotional stuff, getting emotional, and that's okay. It's to be expected when stuff like this happens. Okay.
Everything he said to me was, everything he said, he did.
Okay, I don't understand.
Yeah, he said he was gonna call the police. He had the police here in a few days.
So let me ask, why did he call you?
Because he was trying to get me to talk her into coming back.
Okay. So he wanted her back and so how did the conversation go? What did you say?
I just got out of work. He called me. He said, "You got time to talk?" I said, "Give me a couple minutes. I need to pull over." And
This is your way, you could talk her into coming back. I can't make her decision. And he said he can make her like, let's go in hell if she didn't come back. He said, well, if you don't come back, I'm calling the police, I'm calling CPS. He said, I'll do whatever I can. He said, I'm gonna take those kids away. He said, I'm gonna raise those boys. Those boys deserve to be with me.
Is he related to the boys?
No,
No, okay. So you said, did you want to move in with you after this happened?
yeah,
Okay, and did the boys move in with you then?
Yeah.
Okay, so did CPS show up
yes, twice.
twice?
One for this county and then for our county. We live in Eden County.
Okay, so where are the kids at now?
We live with Max with me.
Okay, and Duana?
Yeah,
So were the kids taken away from Duana?
no, but he did try.
But CPS, well, CPS was involved.
Yeah,
And when was that? When were they involved?
I don't remember the day. I really don't remember.
That's okay.
It's shortly after the, it's probably sometime in June or July.
Okay, June or July of 2023,
Yeah.
after this happened.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. When this all started, how did their relationship go?
If that was okay, a lot of times he would try to be controlling.
What do you mean by that?
He would call me and get angry and upset because he thought I knew where she was. He always expected her to be home at a certain time.
Okay,
Always accusing her of doing things,
like what?
seeing other people. He
Okay,
didn't know where she was.
okay. When did you start getting concerned about their relationship?
When she didn't really want to talk to me, just kind of seemed kind of distant.
When did that happen?
Probably a couple months before she moved out.
So if we're talking June was when she moved out, it would have been April?
Possibly, I don't
That's
know.
okay. Don't make anything up. I'm not asking you to make anything. How often would he call? You said that he would call when they would get in fights.
2 or 3 times a month, but a lot of times he called me at work,
Okay.
and I would tell him, hey, I can't talk right now, I'm at work.
Okay. Judge, can you give me just a second?
Yep.
Have there been any other instances that you know of where Duana has been in a situation to try to leave?
Yeah, there was one time she called me up, she's not waiting, come over and help me move out and the boys. I would get there, he tried to stop us.
What do you mean he would try to stop you?
He didn't want us to take anything, he was arguing.
When was that?
I remember the date when she moved out,
Do you mean in June or do you mean before?
before,
Before. So before the incident when she left for good.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I can try and like pinpoint stuff by saying, was it in the fall? Was it in the spring? What do you think? Was it cold outside?
No, it was around June.
Okay, so maybe like,
Shortly, I'm not really sure. I just remember,
that's okay.
trying to get me to talk her and stay in, and things got broke on the floor. I said, she just wants to leave. And I said to him, I said, have you ever heard this old saying? I said, it's meant to be, let the bird fly. I said, she want, how's it go? Meant to be, let the bird, come back, but it's meant to be, and I said, maybe she just needs some time to get away, maybe you guys can get back together.
I think I've heard something like that. Let it go. If it's meant to be yours, it'll come back.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember, something my dad used to preach to me all the
Yeah,
time.
I think it's something like that. I don't know for sure, but that
I
sounds kind
can't
of.
remember it now.
That's okay. That's okay. So she's tried to leave before and he wouldn't let her take her stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. Judge, I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Just briefly, Your Honor. You had said that Mr. Rutherford was responsible for CPS being involved.
Yeah,
Do you know that with 100% certainty?
yes, he told me that like 2 days after she left, he gave me a call.
Was that him saying that he was going to call CPS? Or- Okay, but then not him saying he already did.
No,
Are you aware that law enforcement and people, or including the prosecutor's office, are mandatory reporters for CPS?
no,
So that if law enforcement or a prosecutor comes in, is made aware of any potential child endangerment or child abuse, or a child being present for some sort of domestic violence act, are you aware that they are mandated by law to make a report to CPS?
yes,
So given that, is it possible that once law enforcement was made aware of the situation going on, I believe, is it possible that law enforcement was responsible for CPS?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
She's asking if it's possible.
no, I know. for a
Let me-
fact he called.
You have to wait.
Let me make a ruling on the objection. She's asking if it's possible. I'll allow
Yes, Judge.
the answer, so the objection's overruled. You can give the answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Is it possible that law enforcement was responsible for CPS being called?
No,
It's not possible.
no,
Why is it not possible?
because he told me that he was gonna do it, and they showed up a few days later.
Does that mean that law enforcement is responsible or couldn't have been responsible for that?
I don't feel that way.
Okay, so it's your opinion though. It's not fact.
Hmm.
Okay, no further questions.
Any questions from the jury?
Do I need to write it
Write it
down?
down, please.
Okay. My handwriting.
No problem. So you guys question, please. You guys question. Okay. Council approach. I don't believe this is a question for this witness. So any additional questions from the jury? Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gusco. You may be excused. There was a sequestration order, so that means you cannot discuss any portions of your testimony with any other witness, okay? Thank you. And defense can call their next witness.
Thank you, Judge. I'm gonna go out in the hallway and grab Irene Furman. One here and have a seat next to the guy. Judge, and she'll swear.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. You can have a seat.
Hi. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Irene Furman, Irene Furman, Furman.
So what is your relationship to Duana?
Duana and I are good friends
Okay. How long have you known her?
since COVID, around COVID time, around 2021.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked her mom. We all know that you are a witness who is testifying here on behalf of Duana. Why should we believe that you're not gonna lie for her?
Because there's no reason to lie. I'm legitimately, if I lie today, I could spend time in jail away from my kids. I have 3 kids and all 3 of my kids need me today.
Okay, okay. So do you know Stephen Rutherford?
I do.
How do you know?
He and Duana had gotten together and everything, and he eventually had asked her to marry him.
Do you remember what happened on June 22nd, 2023?
I do.
How do you remember that? It's a very unique date. Why is it that you remember that date?
Because I was actually getting around to leave for a vacation with my daughter, and Joanna had called me. She had called me crying. She was out of breath. I could barely understand her. And I told her she needed to calm down and talk to me and see what was going on. Before she even said anything, I already knew what was going on though.
What do you mean?
Well, this ain't the first time that she had called me crying the way that she was crying.
Okay, so how many times has that happened where she's called you crying?
She's called me numerous different times saying the same thing about how Stephen had put his hands on her.
Okay. How often would you say she's called you about that?
It's been more than 5, I can tell you that much. Like, I don't have an exact number to give you, but I know it's been more than 5.
That's okay. And what I'm gonna tell you, just like I told everybody else, don't make it up. I'm not asking you to give me a specific answer. Just tell me the truth. Okay. All right. So let's go back to June 22nd. You said you're getting around to go on vacation and Joanna called you out of breath crying.
Yes.
What happened then?
I asked her what was going on. She told me that she was just trying to get her garden going and everything.
Get
And
her what?
garden.
Oh, garden.
Yeah, she
Okay.
was trying to, she was really excited that she was able to, for the first time in a while, be able to get her garden going.
Okay.
And be able to have fresh fruits and vegetables and all that stuff. And that's when she had informed me that Mr. Rutherford had bashed her head into the wall that they had gotten into an argument.
Objection, Your Honor. This is improper, excuse me. Specific acts of prior conduct are not allowed to be used to impeach the character, or not, excuse me, not impeach, but to speak to the character of the victim in assault cases.
Are we talking about, I thought we were talking about the date of the incident.
Oh, then my mistake. I'm sorry, was this a prior?
She said, the question previously was she familiar with the incident in June? To which this witness testified she was. And I think she was narrating what happened. It's back on the date of the election today.
My apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Long day.
You're fine. It is.
And it's warm in here.
It is. It's been a while. Okay, so she was talking about,
So I'll go back to the garden part. She was just trying to get her garden going. Something happened. Stephen bashed her head into the wall and she was crying. She was upset. Told me that she had no place to go. Told her she always had a place to go. My house was always open for her and her kids. It didn't matter. And I was trying to figure out if I needed to go get her, if I needed, you know what I mean? So like, I'm already dealing with all this other stuff. And then knowing this, like my exact words were, do I need to come get you? She's like, no, I can come to you. That's how I remember that day was, she was excited about her garden. I was getting ready to go on a trip with my daughter and everything else.
okay, so did she eventually come to your house?
She did.
How much later?
I stayed on the phone with her the entire time to make sure that she was calm and everything. I made sure she was calm. She made it to the house. She was already kind of driving towards my direction anyways. So it didn't take her that long. She was coming from Lansing. I live in East Rapids.
Were you worried about her?
I was very worried about her.
Why?
Because this isn't the first time that Stevens put hands on her.
Okay. So were you worried about her being able to make it to your house?
I was very worried about knowing if she'd make it to my house or not. I don't know. At the time, I'm just trying to keep her calm. I'm not trying to get her to overthink or, you know what I mean, to focus on the pain or anything. I'm trying to keep her calm.
So pain, she was in pain?
She was, when she had gotten to my house.
So let's slow down. You said when she got to your house, so she got there and how much later?
Probably about 30-40 minutes or
Okay.
so.
Because of the drive?
Yeah.
Down? Okay. So how was she when she showed up? Like, what was her demeanor?
Her demeanor, she seemed a little confused.
Okay. Okay, was she still crying? Was
She
she?
was still upset. She was, you could just see the emotion just running down her face.
Was that along with tears that were running down her face? Okay, were kids there?
Yes.
Okay. And so what happened? You were starting, I just wanted to kind of slow it down a little bit. So what happened then?
So when she and her kids had gotten to my house and everything, I wanted to make sure that she was actually okay. She kind of seemed like she was out of it a little bit. She wasn't fully there.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure she was good, make sure she didn't have to go to the emergency room, and if she did, then we would figure it out with the kids and everything else.
So did you get her settled down in the house?
I did get her settled down. I got her settled down and got her to sit on the couch and relax for a little bit. Try getting her mind off of it.
Okay.
Try to let her know and secure her that he does not know where I live. It is a safe place.
She was worried that he knew where you lived?
Yeah, because he has been to my house before, but he's not familiar. It was dark when he had came to my house. So it's harder to be able to you know what I mean? Like grasp your area when it's dark outside compared to when it's light, everything that's different.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So you said this isn't the first time. What did you mean by that?
She has called me multiple times, letting me know, or you know what I mean, crying to me about him hurting her. I've had to go pick her up multiple different times. I've had to bring clothes to work because they were fighting and he put hands on her and she left and didn't have a change of clothes for work. So I've had to bring clothes and bring makeup to hide the bruises on her face.
Okay, let's talk about that. When did that happen?
There's been multiple different counts where, if I remember correctly, there's been at least 2 that I can remember that I've had to bring makeup into work because I leave a little bit later than what she does when we work together.
Oh, you guys work at the same place?
We did at the time.
Okay, okay. So did you see bruises on her or
I
marks
have.
on her?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've had to, she would ask me if I could see any bruises after she had the makeup on, like, can you see it in the lighting? If I had bruises on my face, sometimes if I seen some, I'd be like, yeah, I can see little markings, or if I didn't, I would tell her, I know you're good.
Okay. So do you know why she stayed?
Well, why she would stay when you really love somebody, you take that maybe that they can possibly change.
So you said there have been 2 times that you've had to take makeup to her at work to cover up the bruises?
Yes.
Okay.
The first time, after the first time, I just kind of left it in my car.
Do you remember when the first time was?
I want to say the first time was in the spring time
Of 2023?
of, this is 2024.
Because they broke up, like she moved out in 2023.
It had to have been, I want to say it was because he's put his hand on her for a while now.
Okay, and like I said, don't make it up.
I can't give you
That's
the
okay.
exact date. I just know that it's been a while, like, you know, like a long time gap that he's actually put his hands on her. So I don't want to give you the wrong year.
That's okay. So I'm saying, don't make it up. Just tell me you don't know. The other thing I wanted to ask, you were never there. You never witnessed any incidents of domestic violence between the 2, did you?
I've never physically seen him put his hands on her.
Okay, so you're just going off of what she's telling.
I've also, it's not necessarily that I'm going off of what she has said to me. I've seen the way that he is.
What do you mean by that?
I've been around a narcissist for about 14 years and everything. A narcissist will allow you as people out in the audience to make them think that they are the most greatest person ever. That was my red flag. Was every time I seen him, he always would make himself look like he was the most amazing person on the world. He would always brag, oh, well, I went and took her out to do this. You don't have to brag about the stuff that you do with somebody. It shouldn't be about that. It should be that you took them out because that you love them, and that's what you do when you love somebody.
So you're thinking he's a narcissist?
Yes.
Just 1 second? Yes, thank you. So she came and she was sitting on the couch. Did she
Yes.
leave then?
Did she leave?
Yeah, did she leave your house?
No, she stayed at least 3 nights at my house with her kids.
How did she act that first night?
Like she was out of it a little bit.
Okay, and when you say out of it, like, okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you is, were you close enough to her that you could smell her breath?
I was.
Did you smell any alcohol?
I did not.
Did you think that maybe she was out of it because she'd been drinking?
No.
In your experience with your relationship with her, is she a big drinker?
No.
Okay. So you said she was out of it. Why did you think she was out of it? What was she doing? How was she behaving? Was she falling around? Was
she was not acting herself. She wasn't acting her normal self. She was acting like how a person would act if they had gotten, well, hit on their head very hardly. She was kind of sleepy a lot. I would ask her something. I had to ask her a couple times.
Did she sleep overnight at your house?
She stayed 3 nights
Okay.
with her kids.
Was it just like, did she just go to bed at like 10 and wake up at 6 the next day? Was it an 8-hour sleep session, or did she sleep for a lot longer?
I was concerned because it felt like she was just sleeping forever.
Okay.
Like she was just tired.
Were you concerned that she might need to go to the doctor?
I did bring that up to her. I can't force her, or I can't make her go to the hospital,
I hear that.
but I can be that annoying friend that will ask you 50 times.
And people should appreciate that. Did she have any injuries?
I didn't see any blood on her when she had arrived at the house or anything. I did, however, feel her head where he had hit her. As she told me that, he threw her in the wall. I did feel a bump on her head, and that was the part that was concerning to me and made me feel like she probably should have went to the hospital with how big the bump was.
How big would you say that it was? Can you give us an estimation?
It was probably about
Like golf ball size is what you're describing?
probably about this thing.
Okay, okay. Judge, I have no further questions. Prosecution.
Said that she was acting confused and out of it. Did she have a hard time answering your questions?
A little bit, I had to repeat myself.
Being fully with it and able to recall everything?
No.
Then you said that, you're the concerned friend. You're the one who's gonna try and make sure someone goes to the hospital. If you're seeing bruises and you're that concerned friend, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you do something for your friend? If you're that concerned.
Because I've asked her. I personally know what it's like to be in a domestic relationship. It is not easy, and you cannot force somebody to what I call, and then she's too scared, she can't talk. She's not ready to talk. So if I call, I probably should have called, but if she's not gonna talk, then it's just gonna waste everybody's time.
No further questions.
Thank you, Director.
No, Judge.
Any questions from the jury? You can write it down. She has a question already written down. And so this juror number 3. Okay. When you testified that the defendant stayed 3 nights at your house, was this immediately following the incident on June 22nd?
When she had left Stevens after the incident, and she had called me upset that night, and then a couple other nights later, for a total of 3 nights. she stayed
Okay,
at my house.
so we're talking about this current incident. Okay, thank you. Council approach. Questions? The last question, they're mixed up, so I can't even tell you which came from which, but the other question is not a question for this particular witness. So any other questions for this witness? Okay, maybe it's going to be excused.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Furman, there is a sequestration order. So what that means is you cannot discuss any portions of your testimony with any other witness, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. You're free to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's another witness.
Judge, I would request, just due to the nature of the time frame and the court's indication earlier on the record, that we be able to take a recess for this evening.
Thank you. It is 5:24. We still have at least one witness, closing arguments and possible rebuttal witnesses, and then some final jury instructions and then deliberations. And so I'm gonna have to release you for the evening and you will have to return in the morning. Hopefully we can get this completed. We can start at 8. Judge Buchanan was nice enough to take my 8:15 docket so that we can devote some time to this.
We have to be here at 8 o'clock.
You need to be here at 8 o'clock. Okay, and then we can get that done. And the reason why is I do have an afternoon docket. And so if we can get this started, I can at least get you deliberated as early as possible so that you can be released from your service as early as possible as well. So with that being stated, we're going to be in recess until tomorrow at 8 a.m. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Should we leave our notepads in this room or in the jury room?
You can leave your notepads in here. This courtroom's gonna be locked. Any other questions? All rise for the jury.